sometimes setbacks are part of the story. So joining me here to weigh in and talk about his personal setbacks is David Stryzewski, CEO of Sound Planning. Well, David, thank you so much for joining us and being our first brave guest to talk about personal setbacks. Because when we think about business, it's not always about success, is it?
No, it's not. I think that if you do business for any amount of time, you're going to have setbacks, whether it's relationships that should have worked out that didn't work out. But the story I want to share here today is one that was devastating at the time, in a very real sense. So as a financial advisor, diversification inside of portfolios, looking for alternatives. I came across this organization in 2013 that was referred to me by someone that was in my office. Went through a process with some attorneys to try to understand it a little bit better, and after about 3 months got comfortable with the idea that with this alternative investment. Long story short, I had advised 8 families to invest a part of their portfolio in this particular organization, and it had like a 2-year term and fixed payment. Ultimately, at the end of this 2-year time frame, opened up Schwab accounts for everybody, rolling over the dollars, looking for some different answers, and this organization began to be investigated by the SEC. I'm like, what's going on? And so that was a real surprise for sure. And then the $1 million that we were supposed to be able to transfer over was not available to transfer over. And then these guys tried to flee the country. And so I'm learning about this in real time, and so when you're put in that position, you kind of have this opportunity to be like, okay, you either run from trouble or you run into it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I need to have conversations with these clients. They're nearing or entering retirement right now. This is, significant and meaningful for them. And so I embraced it, helped to get all the paperwork together, et cetera, to file claims against them, try to get the good guys involved, the SEC's involved here. We got the attorneys. If something's weird, they're going to figure it out. And ultimately, these guys, they tried to run away. So when I found out that it was going to be worth zero, I just really went to the Lord. And after actually 3 days of fasting and praying about what would my next answer would be, I really felt confident in my spirit that God was saying, David, I want you to step in to the place of your clients. I want you to buy these notes, rescind these notes, and I want you to take the blow. And so my company had never even grossed $1 million in a year. And so I entered into this rescission agreement that ultimately I was telling these families, hey, before I'm a financial advisor, before I'm an American, I'm a Christian, and I believe that my leadership led you into this. And so I care about you as a person, and I want to let you know that I'm going to step into your shoes here and become the most defrauded person. But guess what? I can fight it with some attorneys. I've got more time than you guys have. And even though I was a young man, early 30s, I did the right thing in this case.
Yeah, so David, it does sound as though that was a devastating way to learn some key lessons here. But now that you have hindsight, I'm sure that you can step back and say, oh, I should have done this, or perhaps done more due diligence. But for you, what has been the key lesson now that enough time has passed?
That's a great question. What could you do differently? You only know what you know.
Yeah.
And so, the thing that I would note here is that, Bernie Madoff was able to deceive legal teams for decades. I mean, look at the California pension system, et cetera. So you could say, hey, you were an idiot for falling for a sophisticated Ponzi scheme. But here's the reality. In hindsight, I believe that I learned incredible lessons, because you can't call me unethical. You can't say that I was not sincere about the families and the things that I did. In fact, my attorneys that said that I was going to pay them off, I was going to buy these notes 100% plus with interest. They were like, I've never seen this ever in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's what I'm going to do. They're like 40%, 60%. I go 100%. And here's the thing. My team watched me take this on the chin. We grew together as a team. And I think that honestly, I wouldn't exchange, even though I don't wish that on my worst enemy, I would never exchange that season, because what it did is it caused us to grow roots in a way that we would have never otherwise had. But by the way, I became the #1 independent financial advisor in America 2018 and 19 as I was going through that process. God honored me and continue to progress and grow. It didn't affect any of our client relationships. Still work with some of those people today. And so, I think sort of in hindsight, moving slowly is important. But as I shared, I actually took 3 months before I ever even represented these contracts once.
Yeah.
So,
And David, you and I were at a fintech conference here, and artificial intelligence is a key theme, whether we're talking about payments or crypto digital assets. So I do want to ask you, what's your take on the role of AI, especially because you're talking about morals and ethics? So at this intersection, how important is the role of AI, and where do you think the guardrails should be in place?
well, AI is opening up a whole new world for fraud, waste, and abuse. And so the ethics that stand behind this is going to be really important. Hopefully we've got the right leaders that are the ones that are putting the prompts in and helping to build these things with the right rails and the right understanding around it. But there's a lot of very sophisticated schemes out there right now. And so our firm actually runs into them all the time. We've got clients that'll call and they'll say, oh, I've got, I need $20,000 or $30,000 for this or that. And we're like, hold on a second, can we just ask you a couple of questions? And what's amazing is, I think generally when you're a little bit older, which we work primarily with people that are nearing or entering retirement, people want to do the right thing. They don't want to owe something. They want to believe the best of people. And so it's really important to have, the right understanding. And so I think that the training of our teams, how we observe our own emails, how we take phone calls, and does the IRS actually call me or do they send letters? No, they do not call you. They send letters to you. Don't ever take that call and think it's the IRS. But AI is getting crazy. I mean, if you can duplicate voices, if you can do metahumans and all these things, that's a really, really, really scary reality. So we need to be more cautious than ever before about the people that we're working with and what's really driving their decision-making processes.
Yeah, and as much as we like to rely on technology, we're easier to reach, right? We have smartphones, we have access to messages, and this term borderless payments, right? Borderless payments may be great when we're trying to make payments, but let's just say there's a transaction that is fraudulent and our money goes somewhere where we are not quite sure of the destination. So what would you say is the future when it comes to really getting a handle and staying ahead of fraud and abuse?
Know your client, know your business. The KYC, KYB processes are important. But I'm hoping that in the future that we can have more of a blockchain way of actually putting our own information into a cloud. I don't know why every time I even get a mortgage, you've got to put your birthday in, your tax return, this things that don't actually change. You've got to, go and enter all this stuff in manually. But you're right with the speed of everything cross border and we're here at a blockchain conference. I mean, there's a lot of ways to lose a bunch of money really quick. And so people need to be very aware about their keys. You lose your keys, you lose your crypto. My goodness, how many people have that lesson and that story out there? And they're like, shoot, I had 50 Bitcoin back when it was $10 and I put 500 in, and now they wish that they had all this stuff. So I think even our passwords are something so simple that people are just like, hey, I use the same redundant password that it helps me remember it. But even just getting like a LastPass or a Keeper or using Apple for that and having more sophisticated answers, we need to make it harder for the bad guys to get good information. But hopefully the system's going to be getting smarter as we continue to progress in this way and that we don't see as much casualty, although there's just a lot of people that are still getting affected by those telephone scammers, the emails, the encryption on our computers, quote unquote, the viruses that show up. There's even a new one that was like grandkids calling and saying that they need help or on behalf of them, they're in jail or they need, and then send gift cards. So anytime that someone's sending gift card, that's obviously not a great, answer. So becoming familiar with fraud, waste, and abuse is something that's really important. So I'm passionate about this because I've been taken advantage of, because clients have been taken advantage of. We catch this stuff all the time. And so, But no, you're exactly right. This thing is moving at the speed of transaction and just saying go right now. And so, and blockchain, to be clear, is like the most confusing parts about computers, the most confusing parts about money, all wrapped into one. And not a lot of people have a real understanding for that.
Well, David, thank you so much for sharing your story as well as imparting your lessons, your hard-earned lessons with us today. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Remy. Thank you for having me.